Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we extract the most important insights from a stack of sources, giving you a shortcut to being truly well-informed.
Today we're diving into something, well, really fascinating. A game that's both a masterpiece and kind of a mess, at least initially.
Exactly. We're talking about Dishonored 2. Now, on paper, this game sounds like just an undeniable triumph, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the reviews are stellar. You look at OpenCritic, it's got an 86, Metacritic, 88 for PS4, 87 Xbox, 86 PC. Critics loved it.
They really did. Eurogamer called it a masterpiece of open-ended design. It seemed like a slam-dunk sequel, refining everything from the first game.
And yet, there's this huge but, isn't there? This jarring contrast. The same game launched with what the folks over on Reddit, our games, widely called atrocious performance on PC.
Atrocious is a strong word, but yeah, people were really struggling. Some were saying it was completely unplayable. I even saw comments about nausea from the stuttering.
Even on really high-end machines, which is just wild. So our mission today is to dig into that contradiction. What actually made this game an instant classic for so many?
And on the flip side, why did it become this frustrating technical disaster for others? It's a real puzzle.
And zooming out a bit, what does this whole situation tell us about, the stakes in game development, player expectations, and maybe even how we should think about game reviews?
That's the core of it, yeah. We've pulled together a whole stack of sources, critical reviews, obviously, but also lots of player discussions from Reddit, deep dives into the development from that great NoClip documentary.
Right, and even sales stats that tell their own interesting story.
So over the next, say, 20 to 30 minutes, we're going to try and unpack all of that. We'll look at the incredible creative ambition Arkane Studios had.
Explore that groundbreaking level design, the player freedom they were aiming for, which was pretty immense.
And then, yeah, we have to confront that launch day storm, the whole mess that made people really question game reviews and what finished even means anymore.
It's going to be quite a journey, I think. Raises a lot of questions about how we play games, how we judge them. Let's get into it.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. The narrative. Dishonored 2, it wastes absolutely zero time throwing you right into the thick of it, does it? High stakes from minute one.
No kidding. There's no slow build-up. You're 15 years on from the first game. Empress Emily Kaldwin is on the throne in Dunwall. Things seem okay. The city supposedly prospered under her reign.
Right, a sense of stability, which makes the disruption even more impactful.
Exactly. Then suddenly, boom, this new antagonist, the witch Delilah Copperspoon, just shows up. Out of nowhere, really.
Well, not quite nowhere. She brings Duke Luca Abele from Serkanos with her, and she makes this huge claim.
A bombshell claim. That she's Jessamine Kaldwin's half-sister. The true heir to the throne. And this isn't just talk, it's a full-blown coup.
Happening during a ceremony remembering Jessamine's assassination, no less. The timing is brutal. Loyalists killed. Everything turned upside down. It's chaos.
Total chaos. And right there, in that moment, you, the player, get hit with this huge choice. Play as Emily, the empress who's just lost everything. Or Corvo Attano, her father, the royal protector.
And the consequence of that choice is immediate and, frankly, quite shocking.
It really is. Because whoever you don't choose gets turned to stone by Delilah. Just like that. Magically petrified.
Talk about raising the stakes. It's not just a gameplay choice, it's an instant emotional gut punch.
Absolutely. Then it's this mad dash to the docks. Megan Foster's there, Sokolov's contact, waiting with a boat, the dreadful whale.
Yeah.
You barely escaped Dunwall.
And it's on that escape on the boat journey to Karnaca that the outsider shows up again.
Right, the mysterious outsider.
Yeah.
Offering you supernatural powers to help, fight back, reclaim the throne. It's such a potent hook. It creates urgency, but also real curiosity about these new powers.
So the takeaway here seems to be how personal the conflict feels right away. It's not abstract, it's dynastic.
Precisely. It's about family, legacy, the stability of the empire you, or your character, helped build. That choice, Emily or Corvo, and the immediate loss of the other. It gives you this incredibly clear, visceral motivation.
Revenge, justice, just getting them back, it fuels the whole thing.
Yeah, that immediate peril sets the tone. It creates this undercurrent of tension that just runs through the entire game. You feel the stakes from the get-go.
But the story doesn't stay in Dunwall. It pivots quickly, taking us somewhere completely new. Karnaca, the jewel of the South.
And what a change of scenery it is. Karnaca feels so distinct from Dunwall. It's almost a character in itself.
The art direction must have been a huge focus. How did they approach building this new city?
Well, the art director, Sebastian Mitten, his goal was ambitious. He wanted a visual journey to a new city, but crucially one that still felt like Dishonored. It had to have that same vibe of oppression, disease, magic, and decay, just under the sun, kind of.
So where they draw inspiration from, it feels very Mediterranean almost.
You nailed it. They looked at the real Cypriot city, Larnaca, hence Karnaca, obviously, but also Greece, Italy, Spain, even places like Cuba, Lyon, and France, bits of Malibu.
Wow, quite a mix.
Yeah, and they studied 1920s photography too, to give it that sort of historical weight, that feeling of faded grandeur. Architecturally, you see it immediately. More flat-roofed buildings, ornate windows, lots of verticality.
And that shift from whale oil in Dunwall to wind turbines in Karnaca, that's a big visual and thematic change, isn't it?
It absolutely is. It signals a different relationship with the environment, a different industrial base. It makes the world feel grounded. You know, there's this internal logic.
Which brings us to the Dust District. That place feels like the environmental consequence of those wind turbines, taken to an extreme.
Exactly. The Dust District isn't just a cool-looking area with sandstorms. It's environmental storytelling baked right into the level design. Those dust storms, they're caused by the wind rushing through a cleft mountain.
Which got there how?
Well, according to the no-clip doc, the idea is the rich people from Karnaca want to dig the mountain to extract resources. They create this hole, the wind funnels through, and boom, dust storms.
And who lives downwind?
The workers digging the mountain, often. The people living nearby. So it's this direct commentary, this criticism of the society about the overexploitation of nature and the impact this has on people.
Wow. So it's not just window dressing, it's social critique woven into the world itself. That adds a whole other layer of meaning, doesn't it? It makes the stakes feel broader.
Definitely. It makes Karnaca feel like a real place with real problems, echoing things we see in our own world.
Yeah.
It deepens the conversation the game is having.
Speaking of unique tools, let's talk about the heart of Dunwall. It's back from the first game, and it's such a fascinating narrative device.
It really is. It's this supernatural artifact, right, tied to the spirit of Empress Jessamine Kaldwin, Emily's mother. And what it does is, well, it whispers things to you.
Secrets. Hidden thoughts of the people around you, even your allies sometimes.
Yeah, these melancholy insights, as one review put it. And crucially, it gives you a hint about NPCs. Are they sympathetic, guilty, or murderous? Which then feeds into the chaos system we'll talk about later.
So it's not just lore, it directly impacts gameplay and your ethical choices.
Absolutely. And this is the key takeaway, I think. The heart encourages empathy. It forces you to think critically. It completely subverts your expectations sometimes.
How so?
Well, you might be sneaking up on a guard, ready to take them out. But then you use the heart, and it whispers something like, this person secretly feeds stray cats because they hate the thought of them starving.
Oh, wow. Okay, that changes things.
Right. Or maybe it reveals a seemingly tough mercenary, actually sends all his money home to his sick mother. It often reveals these few fitful sparks of virtue, even in enemies.
So you're not just eliminating an obstacle anymore. You're making a much more complex moral calculation.
Exactly. It challenges your assumptions. It makes those ethical decisions feel heavier, more meaningful. You feel responsible. Killing isn't just a button press. It's potentially extinguishing that hidden bit of humanity.
That really raises the personal stakes of every single encounter, doesn't it? It injects this constant moral tension.
It does. It forces you to pause, to consider the unseen consequences. It turns potential violence into this mini ethical dilemma every single time. It's a brilliant way to have a meaningful conversation with the player about their actions.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about the gameplay itself. At its heart, Dishonored 2 is what we call an immersive sim.
Right, and for anyone unfamiliar, that genre label basically means player choice is absolutely paramount. It's the driving force.
And Arkane really leans into that, don't they? Their whole philosophy seems built around it.
Oh, completely. It's all about simulated systems that respond to a variety of player actions. Harvey Smith, the creative director, often talked about their goal being to say yes to the player.
What does that mean in practice? Like, give me an example.
Well, the classic one they mentioned is, say there's a side objective where you need to deliver some specific bottles of wine. Most games would make those bottles indestructible, right? Plot armor.
Yeah, usually.
But in Dishonored 2, if you decide, for whatever reason, to just smash those bottles, the game doesn't break. It doesn't fail the mission. Instead, it triggers an alternate scene, fully voiced, where the characters react to what you did.
That's incredible. So they anticipated even weird player actions.
They tried to. It's about giving players genuine authorship of their own experience. They give you the tools, the powers, the environment, and then they let you figure out how to solve problems your way.
Which encourages exploration too, presumably.
Right.
Finding secrets, alternate routes.
Exactly. You have freedom in how you approach objectives. Even when you choose to end a mission, it nudges you to poke around, find hidden lore, soak in that environmental storytelling.
It really makes you curious about what's possible, what the limits are, if you can even find them.
Which raises that interesting question, right? How much control should a game give you? Arkane pushes it really far. It's not just multiple paths. It's emergent gameplay. Meaning, sometimes things happen that even the developers didn't explicitly plan for, just because the systems interact in unexpected ways. Your plan might go totally haywire, as they put it.
And you have to improvise, which sounds like it creates real tension.
It does, because the world feels reactive, alive, not static.
Yeah.
Your choices, your actions, they feel like they genuinely matter moment to moment. That's key to that high-stakes, immersive feeling.
Now, one of the biggest choices happens right at the start. Emily or Corvo. And you mentioned they aren't just skins, they play very differently.
Hugely differently. It defines your whole approach. Corvo, coming back from the first game, keeps his classic powers, but they're refined.
Like Blink, his teleport.
Exactly. Blink is back, but now you can upgrade it to freeze time briefly when you use it, or even do damage when you arrive. Makes it way more versatile.
What else did Corvo have? Rats, right?
Devouring Swarm, yeah. Summons rats. But now you could even direct them to get rid of bodies, which is handy for stealth and avoiding those blood flies.
How clever.
He still has possession, taking over humans, animals, even corpses now, which is creepy but useful.
Yeah.
And you could upgrade it to chain possessions. Plus bend time and wind blast. Classic Corvo stuff, but honed.
Okay, so Corvo was familiar but upgraded. What about Emily? She was new as a playable character.
Emily gets a completely fresh set of powers, and they feel distinctively, well, her. More about manipulation and control, maybe reflecting her upbringing as an empress.
Interesting. Like what?
Her main movement power is far reach. It's like this shadowy tendril you can use to pull items or enemies towards you, or fling yourself across gaps. It's not quite Blink, it's more physical, has momentum.
Okay, different feel. What else?
Mesmerize is a big one. You summon this void spirit that basically hypnotizes guards, letting you just walk right past them. Great for stealth.
And Domino? That one sounded really cool.
Domino is maybe her signature power. You can magically link several enemies together. Then whatever happens to one of them, happens to all of them.
Whoa. So knock one out.
Yeah, and they all fall down.
Yeah.
Sleep dart one, they all nap, kill one. Well, you get the idea. It allows for these incredibly efficient, almost puzzle-like takedowns.
That sounds incredibly powerful and strategic.
It is. She also has Shadow Walk, where he turns into this creeping shadow creature, very low profile. And Doppelganger, which creates a clone of herself to distract enemies or even fight alongside her.
And both characters could upgrade these powers.
Yeah, much more flexibility this time. Skill trees for lethal or non-lethal upgrades for most powers, plus passive skills, and crafting bone charms got a big overhaul too. You could combine traits for really powerful custom effects.
It really sounds like the powers reflect who they are. Corvo, the direct assassin, Emily, the strategic manipulator.
That's exactly the feel. It encourages completely different playstyles. Playing as Emily feels fundamentally different from playing as Corvo. It's almost a role-playing choice baked into the mechanics.
Which must massively boost replayability, right? You'd be immediately curious to try the other path.
Absolutely. It makes that initial choice feel really weighty, really high stakes for how your whole game experience will unfold. It deepens the engagement right away.
Now, something the first game got a bit of flack for was the non-lethal path. If you wanted the good ending, sometimes it felt less fun, more restrictive.
That was definitely a common criticism. Non-lethal often meant just slowly choking everyone out one by one or avoiding combat entirely. It could feel a bit tedious compared to the flashy lethal powers.
But Dishonored 2 apparently tackled this head-on.
They really did. They dramatically expanded the non-lethal combat options. Suddenly you could slide into enemies for a takedown, shoot them in the leg, then do a non-lethal stomp, you could parry, and then grapple into a choke.
So, more dynamic options.
Way more. Throws, kicks, even non-lethal drop assassinations, plunging down onto someone from above and knocking them out instead of killing them.
Someone on Reddit called it like being steampunk Batman, right?
That was the perfect description. You could suddenly engage groups of enemies in this flurry of non-lethal moves, turning a potential bloodbath into a slumber party, as one player put it. It felt incredibly skillful and satisfying.
Okay, that sounds much better. But does making non-lethal that cool and effective maybe, I don't know, undermine the stealth a bit? Or make the good path too easy?
That's the debate, isn't it? It's a really interesting design question. If non-lethal is just as fun, or maybe even more fun and flexible than lethal, does it lose its meaning as a choice?
Right. Does it just become the default auction mode, but without blood?
Some people argue that, yeah, that it might encourage stealth gameplay less because you could just handle guards non-lethally in open combat so effectively. If there's no real cost or challenge difference, is the ethical choice still meaningful?
It's a tricky balance for designers then. How do you keep the tension, the sense of consequence, if the good option is also the most mechanically robust?
Exactly. It's about balancing player empowerment with meaningful choices and consequences. You don't want the right path to feel like a chore, but you also don't want it to feel trivial. It's a constant tightrope walk.
And presumably that's where the chaos system still plays a role, adding back some of that consequence.
Precisely. The chaos system is back, and it's still tracking how much death and disruption you cause. Kill people, especially sympathetic ones, identified by the heart, and your chaos rating goes up.
What does high chaos actually do in Dishonored 2?
Several things. You get different, darker dialogue from Emily or Corvo. You'll find more enemies patrolling levels later on, and crucially, more blood flies.
Ah, the creepy insect things.
They lay eggs in corpses. So if you leave bodies lying around in high chaos, you'll find more bloodfly nests, which are dangerous hazards. It actively encourages you to hide bodies, even if you are killing people.
So it adds a strategic layer even to lethal play. And it affects the ending.
Definitely. Multiple endings based on high or low chaos overall. But also, specific choices matter, like whether you rescue the character turned to stone, and how you deal with certain targets non-lethally impacts Karnaca's future.
And for the ultimate challenge.
People go for the ghost, run no kills, no detections at all. Some even do no magic, low chaos ghost, which sounds incredibly tough.
Oh.
Players described it as the most frustrating and personally rewarding playthrough.
Wow. That just speaks volumes about the depth of the systems and the player agency, doesn't it? The stakes you can set for yourself. Okay, we can't talk about Dishonored 2 without talking about the level design. And there's one level that always comes up first. The Clockwork Mansion.
Oh yeah. Jindosh's mansion, it's legendary for a reason. If any single level gets called a masterpiece or mind-bending, it's that one. Truly peak creative curiosity from Arkane.
Describe it for someone who hasn't played. What's so special about it?
Imagine a huge, opulent mansion where entire rooms just reconfigure themselves. You pull a lever and walls slide, floors drop, new corridors open up. It's like a giant, intricate puzzle box, or like those tiny Japanese apartments that transform.
A living building almost.
Exactly. A decadent, restless mechanism, as one review put it. And it reflects the owner, Kirin Jindosh, this arrogant, toffee-nosed inventor. The house is his mind complex, controlling, maybe a bit over-engineered.
And you can get inside the mechanisms, right? See how it works.
Yeah, you can slip behind the walls, into the crawl spaces, see the gears grinding, the pistons moving, and you actually hear Jindosh's commentary change, his composure crack, as you mess with his perfect creation.
That's brilliant. And didn't he have some ridiculously pointless moving rooms, too?
He did. Like, his bedroom and research room could just slide across the main hall, because apparently he doesn't feel like walking 3 meters. It says everything about his personality. Pointless, but character-defining.
And the enemies there were unique, too.
The Clockwork Soldiers. These tall, four-armed automatons. Tough enemies, complex, hard to take down quietly. Again, perfectly reflecting Jindosh's mind. They really ramp up the tension in that level.
It sounds stunning, but also like a technical nightmare to actually build in a game engine.
Oh, immensely challenging. Think about the AI, the enemy pathfinding, the nav mesh. How does an enemy navigate a space when the walls and floors are literally shifting beneath them in real time?
Right. That sounds impossible.
They had to develop systems for that, and complex audio propagation too, so sound would realistically change as the environment reconfigured. A door slides shut, the music muffles correctly, it wasn't just visual flair, it was deeply simulated.
But true to Arkane's philosophy, you could bypass all that complexity if you were clever enough.
That's the amazing part. If you're observant, you might find a way, say, blink through a skylight, get behind the walls early, and potentially ghost the whole level, bypassing almost all the moving parts. They still give you that choice.
Master the mechanism or find a way around it. That's player agency right there. It keeps you curious about finding those alternative solutions.
Exactly. It respects the player's ingenuity rather than forcing them down one path.
Okay, so Clockwork Mansion is one icon. What's the other level everyone talks about?
A crack in the slab. If Clockwork Mansion played with space, this one played with time.
Time travel. in Dishonored.
Full-on time travel. You're exploring this dilapidated, abandoned mansion in the present day. But you get this artifact, a mystic timepiece.
And what does it do?
It lets you look through it, like a lens, into the past 3 years earlier, when the mansion was occupied, full of guards, secrets, parties even. And you can instantly shift between the two time periods.
Whoa, so you're literally jumping back and forth between ruin and grandeur.
Instantly.
Yeah.
Present, past. And the level design leverages this brilliantly. Some of the game's best puzzles involve figuring out how actions in the past affect the present.
Like move an object in the past.
And it's moved in the present. Or maybe taking out a guard in the past means a key they would have had is now unobtainable, forcing you to find another way. It has real consequences across time.
That sounds mind-bending. And they did something else in this level too, right? Took away your powers?
Most of them, yeah.
Yeah.
A deliberate choice. It strips you down, forces you to rely purely on stealth, observation, and clever use of the timepiece. You have to rediscover the basic art of evasion.
That's bold. It must create a very different kind of tension being suddenly less powerful.
Definitely. Makes you feel vulnerable again. Makes the time mechanic the absolute star.
Where did such a radical idea even come from? Was it planned from the start?
Interestingly, no. This mechanic was actually built on tech from a discarded feature. They originally had this concept for a void house, a personal base you could access anywhere.
We'll get back to that cut content later, but the time travel came from that.
The portal tech developed for the void house, yeah. They repurposed it when the void house got cut because it was too slow and not sexy enough. It shows how resourceful developers can be a rejected idea finds new life.
And the technical challenge of rendering two versions of the level simultaneously?
Huge. They essentially had both the past and present versions of the map loaded at the same time, maybe even stacked on top of each other vertically in the engine data to keep things aligned. It meant having the available resources just for this one level. No cheating, they had to make both.
That's dedication. It creates this incredible sense of stakes, both in playing it and appreciating the effort behind it.
Absolutely. The complexity is part of what makes it so memorable.
So these levels, Clockwork Mansion, Crack in the Slab, they aren't just gimmicks. They seem rooted in a deeper design philosophy.
Very much so. Harvey Smith talked about how players often fall into patterns, using only their 2 or 3 favorite abilities or tactics. Arkane actively tries to shake them out of that through new environments that require different approaches, like the verticality of Karnaca, through unique enemies, like the Clockwork Soldiers, or by temporarily removing powers, like in Crack in the Slab. It forces adaptation, keeps you curious.
And Smith also liked the boring part. What did he mean by that?
He meant the lead up to the action, the moments where you're just observing, exploring, planning your approach before you commit. He felt that it built curiosity and tension more effectively than constant action.
Letting you scout, gather intel, make a plan, it's about that meaningful conversation with the environment again.
Precisely. And creating contrast was key too. Contrast in pace, quiet exploration followed by sudden action. Contrast in space, tight corridors opening into vast chambers. Contrast in activity, even economics within the levels. It keeps things dynamic.
And layered on top of all that is the environmental storytelling we touched on.
Right, the levels are just stuffed with hidden gems and secret stories, letters, diaries, objects left behind, the state of decay, those bloodfly infestations. They all tell you something about the world and the people in it.
It makes you feel like you're uncovering a real history, not just playing through a level. Builds that emotional investment.
Exactly. It deepens your connection, raises the narrative stakes, and makes the world feel incredibly rich, textured, and alive. It rewards your curiosity every turn.
Okay, so we've talked about the incredible design, the ambition, the player freedom, but we have to address the elephant in the room, the launch, especially on PC.
Yeah. For all its brilliance, Dishonored 2's launch was rough. A big part of that story revolves around the engine they used.
The Void engine, right. Which wasn't entirely new, but heavily modified.
Exactly. It was based on id Tech 5, the engine behind games like Doom, 2016, and Rage. Powerful tech. But Arkane Lion reportedly rewrote something like 70% of it.
Why rewrite so much? What were they aiming for?
They wanted to really push the visuals. Better lighting, more advanced post-processing effects, things like subsurface scattering, which makes materials like skin look more realistic as light passes through them. Real cutting-edge stuff for the time.
So high visual ambition, but building on an engine they hadn't used before or had heavily changed. That sounds risky.
Extremely risky. And it seems that risk caught up with them at launch. The reports from PC players were not good.
Understatement. We heard about major performance issues, optimization issues, that weird negative mouse acceleration problem.
Right, which makes aiming feel floaty and horrible.
Hmm.
People reported constant crashing, sometimes just 20 minutes into the game. Huge frame rate drops, especially in open areas, choppiness, wildly fluctuating FPS between 30 and 140.
Even on monster PCs, right? People with SLI setups, 1070s, 1080s, they were still having problems.
Yeah, it wasn't just affecting low-end machines. High-end rigs were struggling. For some, the stuttering was so bad it made the game borderline unplayable, even causing nausea.
With the console versions, okay.
Better, generally.
Yeah.
They still had some issues, frame rate dips, texture pop-in, laggy menus sometimes, but it's considered more stable, by console standards. The PC version was definitely where the crisis was.
It sounds like they really underestimated the challenge of optimizing that heavily modified engine for PC, given their zero experience with iTech 5 beforehand.
It certainly seems that way. The sheer variety of PC hardware makes optimization a huge task at the best of times. When you're also working with largely unfamiliar, heavily written engine code and trying to push visual boundaries, it's a recipe for potential disaster.
The community frustration must have been huge, seeing amazing reviews but not being able to actually play the game properly.
It was palpable, and it immediately turned the conversation around the game toxic in places. Reviews became battlegrounds. Should you score the underlying great game that was clearly there, or the terrible performance issues that made it unplayable at launch?
That's a tough one. It really highlights the stakes, doesn't it? A brilliant design can be completely undermined if the technical execution isn't there.
Absolutely. It doesn't matter how good the game is if people can't run it, especially with the expectation that a new AAA release should have those fancy new graphics and run smoothly. The pressure is immense.
And this whole situation blew up into a wider debate about game reviews and publisher practices, didn't it? Specifically, Bethesda's review copy policy at the time.
It did. Bethesda had implemented this policy where they wouldn't send out review copies until launch day, or maybe just a day before. Very short lead times.
Which, in the context of Dishonored 2's PC performance, looked pretty bad.
It looked suspicious, yeah. Many players and even some critics felt the policy was deliberately timed to hide the PC performance problems until after the first wave of sales and pre-orders were locked in.
Whether that was the intent or not, the perception was damaging, and it sparked that ethical debate for reviewers.
Exactly. Do you score the game as it is on day one, warts and all, even if you suspect patches will fix it eventually? Or do you try to look past the temporary technical flaws to the core experience?
It's a dilemma, because players are buying the game now, not the patched version from 6 months later.
Right. And the fear expressed by some was that if reviewers got into the habit of giving high scores to technically broken games, it sends a bad message. Like, it encourages publishers to rush games out, focus on gameplay, art, and worry about performance later.
We'll just patch it later. It risks eroding trust.
Completely. It created this real tension between players, reviewers, and publishers. Players felt they needed honest information, primarily, will this even run on my machine, before they spent their money.
It really underlines why critical thinking is so important when reading reviews, right? Understanding the context, not just looking at the score, being a curious, informed consumer.
Couldn't agree more. You need to read between the lines sometimes, see when the review was written, what version was played, especially around launch.
Now, switching gears slightly, but still on the topic of what doesn't make it into the final game, let's talk cut content. Every big game has it, and Dishonored 2 apparently had some major features left on the cutting room floor.
Oh yeah. The development graveyard for this game sounds fascinating. Arkane talks about making painful cuts, and the biggest one seems to have been this thing called the Void House.
What was that supposed to be?
Imagine a personal, customizable headquarters in the Void, the dimension the outsider hangs out in. The idea was you could access it from almost any wall in the world.
Whoa, like a pocket dimension HQ?
Sort of.
Yeah.
It was meant to be your living space, inventory storage, a place to craft bone charms, even a training room where you could apparently practice on manifestations of enemies from your nightmares, which sounds intense.
Sounds incredibly ambitious technologically, too, having that accessible everywhere.
A huge technological thing, as they put it. The level basically had to be loaded everywhere in the game, potentially.
So why cut something so massive and seemingly cool?
Two main reasons given. One, performance and pacing. It was too slow and not sexy enough in practice, apparently. But more importantly, they realized it wasn't needed. Because the dreadful whale, the boat that serves as your hub between missions, naturally filled that role. It became the living space, the planning area. The void house became redundant.
Interesting. So even cool ideas get cut if they don't serve the core experience.
Exactly. They also cut a much longer intro sequence involving Emily christening a ship and a bigger Dunwall tutorial section, all trimmed down for better pacing to get you into the main conflict faster.
It really shows that game development isn't just about adding features, it's also about knowing what to take away, even if it's painful.
That's the art of it, isn't it? Sacrificing ideas you love, even technically impressive ones, if they don't ultimately make the game better. It highlights a constant tension between creative ambition and practical reality.
And makes you curious about just how much didn't make it in. As one dev said, what remains on the cutting board is probably even bigger than the game.
A humbling thought for any big project, I imagine.
So, despite the rocky launch, the performance issues, the cut content, how did Dishonored 2 actually do in the long run? Did it find its audience?
It did, but the sales story is nuanced. Initially, physical launch sales were down quite a bit compared to the first game, like 38% lower in the UK, for example.
Which might reflect those launch issues, or maybe just market trends.
Could be both. But here's the interesting part. Looking at Steam revenue estimates over the long term, Dishonored 2 actually grossed more than the original. Dishonored roughly $71 million versus $50 million.
Wow. So the digital long-tail sales were really strong.
It suggests so. It implies the game had legs, that people discovered it over time, maybe after patches or through word of mouth, and appreciated its quality despite the initial stumbles. It found its audience eventually.
And critically, did the awards follow?
Oh yeah, it won Best Action Adventure Game at the Game Awards in 2016. Also picked up awards for things like costume design. And critically, its reputation has only grown. It's now widely regarded as one of the greatest games ever made.
So it overcame that initial negativity to become a classic.
Pretty much. Even now, years later, it still has hundreds of active players on Steam daily. People see it as an underrated masterpiece, a real benchmark for immersive sims. Its core quality clearly shone through.
It's a testament to the design, really, that level of player agency, the world building. It created something enduring.
Absolutely. It proves that strong fundamentals, genuine innovation, and that commitment to player choice can create something truly special, something that lasts well beyond launch week controversies. It continues to spark meaningful conversations. Hashtag tag outro.
So that really brings us full circle, doesn't it? The story of Dishonored 2 is this fascinating paradox. A game hailed for its daring design, its incredible player freedom, those unforgettable levels like the Clockwork Mansion, a crack in the slab.
Truly a high point for the immersive sim genre. A game that just begs you to be curious, to experiment, to push its systems.
And yet, it launched into a storm. Significant technical problems, especially on PC, that soured the initial experience for so many and raised some really important questions.
Questions about development priorities, the pressure of AAA releases, the role and timing of reviews. It really put the stakes, the whole ecosystem, into sharp relief.
But ultimately, what endures?
I think it's the ambition. Dishonored 2 is proof that real creative vision, even when it stumbles technically, can leave a lasting legacy. When a game trusts you, the player, to be the author of your own experience, gives you deep systems to play with, meaningful choices to make, that creates a powerful connection.
And the conversations that started about gameplay innovation and launch readiness are still relevant today, aren't they?
Absolutely. They help us understand how games are made, how they're judged, and how we as players navigate all of that. It highlights the immense stakes involved in bringing such complex creations to life.
So maybe the final thought for you, the listener, is this. Reflecting on Dishonored 2's journey from critical darling to technical mess and back to beloved classic what do you value most? Is a technically flawed masterpiece still a masterpiece in your eyes?
Yeah, how much forgiveness is there for the sake of genuine innovation and a truly unique, engaging experience? Where do you draw the line?
Something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.